the Hanmer Springs Community Board. Health and safety, in the event of emergency, please leave the building via any of the exits and assemble in front on Mary Avenue. We have an apologies from the Mayor, Murray Black, and also from Alice Delo, who's unwell today. Is there any announced urgent business? Okay. Conflicts of interest? I see we're mainly financial, so. Good. Right, confirming the minutes then from the last board meeting. For matters of accuracy first, page 45, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the matters arising from those minutes, pages 4 and 5, 6 and 7, 8 and 9.
Page 7.
Yep.
Request to an accessible path to Connecticut. Is there any?
Whereabouts? Oh, I see. Paragraph 1. Yeah.
The progress?
I can probably, I mean, we've talked about this some time ago, Dan, to get the level right, to get wheelchair access up there, it's probably impossible because you've got the steps at the end. But I did pick a contractor up and have a look about a week ago about making a ramp that isn't wheelchair. But the other problem is you can't get pushchairs up with your children. You've got to carry them up. So I think if we looked at putting a ramp up there and coming around and up, at least you can get prams up there. Because I remember bringing my children up when I was young. It's a bit of it's not that flash. The amount of people going up there. So it's one of the options we can look at. Wheelchairs, I think I'm with Dan. Even if you could make that wheelchair access, you're not going to come up Concord Hill. That's too steep, unless you came around the back. But I'm not saying that in the future, and I suspect it might be too far away, you'll get motorised wheelchairs or electric wheelchairs that will probably get you up there, thus getting up the ramp or coming up Portsmouth Road or something like that. So I think that would probably cover it for long term.
Is the problem, through the chair, the problem of achieving the 1 and 12 or whatever it is to the lookout itself? Can we, is that
One and 8.
not possible? Is that what I understand?
Well, Madam Chair, yeah, it's possible, but it won't take a single path up to the thing. So that's what we've always discussed in the past, is actually how do you can get, even if you were to build a ramp up the top, can you even get a wheelchair up to the top? So that was always the first conundrum. But what I can do, I mean, if you want us to, I can get one of the guys to come up with our GPS level, and we can literally map that whole top area and do 5 metre spacings, and then give us some kind of view as to what we can and can't do. I mean, I put a report to this board, or it might be a couple of years ago now, but explored about 3 or 4 different options of getting a pathway to the top, and the least steep route was cutting some kind of track up through the rocky outcrop.
Yep.
Which wasn't favourable given visitors or whatever else might be in there. But we can map it if you like. We can give you a view and tell you what you can achieve, and it might not be the prescribed slope for wheelchair access, but at the very least we'll get you something that will tell you what we can do.
I suspect the long term is probably bringing something in from Parsons Road, because if you're going to start a ramp that goes up the front of Concord Hill, it'll probably start about 4 square.
You can't take out the turning part either. So when you drive up there, you can only start on the other side of that, but you've still got to have driving access. So you can't have an indefinite ramp down the other side. So like Dan said, you're a limited area that you can put a ramp in.
Yeah.
And I think for prams and that sort of thing, it's totally achievable.
Yeah.
I suppose it would also depend very much on if the fly ride is permitted and where that will go, because I mean, there may be conditions on that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. But when do we know?
Yeah. Well, I suspect it's one of those very, 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 very long term. So in that regard, then are we asking Dan to do that investigation, or
Yeah, you don't mind, Dan?
It's going to cost. It's going to cost.
I think they like it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll probably get one of the guys to come up, and they're coming up and you're doing a job anyway, so they can just go up there and that'll take probably 20 minutes, well, probably half an hour to get there. And then, yeah, so it's only probably an hour's worth of that time.
If they wanted me to, I don't mind coming up. And checking whoever's going up there too, save anybody else bothering to come up.
Right, yeah,
So
so it's not,
that's all.
I only lives in Colton anyway, so next time I'm up there, I'll get with touch base.
Okay.
But yeah, that was, in fact, I just talked to Dave Perry earlier today and said, why don't we just do 5 metre grids, map the whole place out, so 5 metres, and just go take GPS level, and then we'll have a good idea of what that looks like.
Because at the moment, we don't have anything like that in place to know what is possible and what the options are in terms of.
Well, only that we got a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a straight line, you won't get your
No,
right level. But whether or not you're still trying to achieve that or not, given that you can't get wheelchair up there,
Yeah.
the rest of the hill anyway.
Yeah. Because you can get around that. I checked that you can go up and have flat area, but then do that. But like, then you still won't get a wheelchair up there.
no.
You end up having like a landing or something, so you come in and then you're doubling in.
Yeah, then it's probably too long and you can't turn around.
I suspect it's a bit,
I think the ramp would look nice. I think those steps are, go up there in the winter or when it's wet and miserable, they are lethal.
It's not, they're not.
They're not safe to walk up. So I think it's a health and safety issue too. We need to look at some sort of ramp. And it won't be hugely expensive and it'll last forever. We do it right.
Well,
I'm not.
Yeah.
But
I certainly support that. You know, those steps are lethal in the winter. Least expensive option. And going up the rock's not feasible, you reckon, Chris?
so,
Going up the rock like,
no, not at all. No, right, it isn't. In fact, if you look at that now, when I first came here, that little track where they would have walked up was about that wide. Now the thing's from here to there. But I know how to fix that. We fence it off and when they cut out sections here, most of it in grass, they cut a pad out, 100, 150 mils deep, they throw the soil out with the grass on it. We'll just take that up there and jigsaw puzzle it up there and replant the grass and in time plant the native grass over top of it, all the grasses. Because that's just people, you just walking everywhere over there now, right through habitats.
In Scandinavia, they call them elephant tracks. And it's they call it a failure of social engineering. If people create their own, that's what I'm talking about. Because you haven't engineered a solution, actually, people want.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they consider it.
Yeah.
So you have
fence.
to channel people.
yeah.
To where you want it.
You have to put something where they want it.
Yeah.
And if they're walking down the rocks, you either need to fence it off and stop them walking down it, or put, that's the ideal place to park.
Yeah.
But that's for you
Yeah.
decide, of course.
But I prefer walking on those rocks because it's safer than that.
I saw a woman-
wooden steps.
I saw a woman fall over going down that. Boy, did she hit her hard.
So Chris, will that be part of that revenge project up there?
Yeah, but that'll all be, it needs to be fenced off so people can't go up there because of the
Right.
habitat on there and fill that in and grass it. It's not a major job. It's take time.
Okay, any other matters arising from those minutes?
I've been in touch with the men's shed about those seats and they're underway.
You're on the way, yep.
Part of that paragraph was in respect to the funding of it from the staff house funds. Do we know clearly as to what amount is available?
Not the amount, but I got the documents that we used when we got the funding from the staff house fund, and it was all around making sure that the funds were applied to the 27 reserves within Hanmer Springs Ward, which is a full list there, but it did go on to say that the majority of the funds will be allocated to the development of Dog Stream Reserve, Brook Dawson Park, Tarndale Park and Lockhill Drive Reserve. So I suppose the key is, and I don't have the answer to it at the minute, it's
And the Cotton Hill was not mentioned.
Comical Hill's on the list of reserves that we can apply the money to,
Right.
to the reserve, so wouldn't be a problem with using it, it's just making sure that we've got the available funds to do so. So the key is, I suppose, and I'm not, is what are the projects that are still to be done, that had been envisaged as part of the Staff House Fund, and what is the amount remaining after that. The thing that we do have, the fund came to us about 2015, and I've been crediting interest to it ever since. So there's probably out of the fund that's in there's about a third of it may be accumulated interest, which is built up, which is not a bad thing, but that just gives you more money to apply to those projects that you don't have to apply the amenities account to. But it's just being sure that we, I suppose, ultimately we want to get rid of that fund as quickly as possible, apply it to projects.
Yeah.
And it's not an issue from then on. And the short answer is yes, you could apply some funds here. It's the longer answer is how much funds do we have to apply to it?
Yeah.
And the fund amount that is still available is about 156, is it?
Yeah, almost 157 at the end of October. So
Well, there is other options for up there that we can talk about early next year.
Yes.
Because it's after your project.
Well, no, I just don't want to tie you all up with them,
Okay,
unless you want to hear them.
well,
It's probably where they're earlier.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we wait.
yeah, wait and let us know then.
I think we wait.
Okay. The action sheet stuff we'll deal with when we're doing the action sheet. So is anything else arising from those minutes?
Oh, no, they're true.
I'll second that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Very much. So we have from Pauline Bennett, and I've spoken to her at length about this. The notes regarding the prison hut restoration project. It's great that she has carried on being, so Pauline used to chair the Heritage Forest Trust, and she's no longer on that trust, but she's very passionate about the ownership of the Heritage Forest, ceding eventually to the council or the public, or however that happens, and also, projects like this. So I'll take that all as read.
It's not clearly to me, but who actually does that?
Who actually does it? I wasn't actually here last meeting, so can the community board and the Hurunui District Council please make steps to enter in discussion with the land and lease owners to look at ways to more formally secure public access in the heritage forest? Well, that's ongoing.
I thought it was owned by Swiss Family Trust.
Corazon,
Yeah.
Corazon. Yeah,
Because we asked that question at our last meeting, where we thought it might have been Naitaho.
Yeah.
And,
it's Corazon.
and the CEO said, no, it's not there.
It'd be the Swiss family.
Yeah, it's Corazon.
Yeah.
I might talk, because I wasn't here last time, but I might talk to Pauline about that and get her to clarify.
Please.
Okie doke. So we'll move on then to our first item, which is about the fees and charges. Going to talk us through that, Jason? Please come up. James?
Oh, well, yeah, it's actually the boss, he's not here today, but these are the fees and charges.
Yeah.
That that are set for from July next year.
Yeah.
So not for this year.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the ones that are set for this year, you've actually got the right to change them if you like.
Yeah.
But this is just part of council being as transparent as possible. We're not supposed, we don't have to consult on all of these fees and charges, but we do, just so that people, we're putting them all out there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, unless it's a consent or a permit or one of those sort of regulatory fees, you've got the right to take them when you like.
Can we, if I could ask through the chair, look at that application in terms of a percentage increase? As opposed to going through all the individual figures and saying that goes here and there.
Yeah, that clear, do whatever you like.
We put the fees up by 10% earlier this year, didn't we? Across all the Hanmer Spring properties.
So this is for July next year.
So this is putting them up again next year.
Yeah, that's right. So that was my question really, and I didn't fully understand it. So there's been across the board 10%.
That was this year.
That was this year.
Yeah. That's what we.
So a rough indication of the percentage increase for 2025. Please.
I'm of the view that I'd like to, the locals don't see the same increase as those who are not local in terms of electric heating in various parts of our property. I'd like to see some move in that direction. Where if you're talking in percentages, the locals, it might be 5%, well, it's 10% for those who are coming.
What would you call local?
Local would be, for example, our school, the time that they use it during the year, people who are actually resident in, for a business within Hanmer Springs, as opposed to those who are outside Hanmer Springs who want to rent the hall, whatever it is.
That's quite a discount for a Hanmer business / commercial.
Yeah, it's about $20, wasn't it?
Oh, 60. Say for the hall. For the hall, 264 for outside Hanmer Springs, 203 for inside Hanmer Springs, and community / charitable use, 66.
And some of those we even get them for free.
Yeah, and if we decided to.
Yes, so you're correct. There is a difference there already. It's just as to applying the percentages to whether, rather than 10% across the board, that we can make that comparison between the two. Okay.
Of course, there is a comment. Thank you.
Well, as we've got a differential already, do we need to, couldn't we then just apply a fixed percentage area? We could maintain that differential.
The point is, what is the differential?
$60 more for the wall.
No, I mean in terms of the application of the percentage that we're going to apply. How much of it?
Well, that's for us to put a figure on.
That's right.
We did 10% last year. Inflation's come down a little bit, about 5% or 7%.
Wages have gone up.
Like 7%.
You like to see the 7%?
7%.
7.
I think so.
Mindful of the fact that we wanted to try to get this village out of debt within the 10-year period. So
That's what
so that's one of the ways of doing it is 7%. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on. What's the thing?
I think they're, apart from Queen Mary Reserve, they're quite negligible amounts. And
They are.
once I got over the shock of the increase for what was going to be charged for the reserve, I actually think it's very, it's a suitable amount when you think about what gate takings are. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to recommend a 7% increase, whatever that is. We might find it's less than that already.
Yeah. Are you starting as a motion?
Yeah. Yeah, it's down as a decision item, but
How would that affect with you, Jason? You'd be happy with that? So
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, if it's specifically for the Hanmer Springs ones, that's easy. We just, each of them we increase by 7%, and that just becomes a proposed new fee. It goes out for consultation from there, but, and ultimately the council make the decision if there's thousands of submissions against it. Yeah, we perhaps may have over the pudding, but, if there's very little, debate about it, well, it becomes in place, and we, but inevitably you'll get, some that will request a waiver, and yeah, just deal with those, on a case by case.
so the Hanmer Springs board prefers a 7% increase.
And the other communities, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, they've had a look at them. I haven't been to every meeting, but again, they'll determine in their own space. I know,
Yeah, the only other one so far is Southwood. And they were debating to put the prices up. And then they decided to leave them all alone. So, you know, they were sort of a bit like this really, you know, trying to test the water, what's going to happen. CPI being, I think it's about 2.3 at the moment. What's going to try and predict what's happening next year, who knows? So they decided to leave it where it was.
I think the 10% that you had for this current year, there was a fair bit of catch up from previous years, because I think for quite a while they remained relatively static, particularly after COVID.
You know, I would also add though that they're in a slightly different situation to rural areas. You've got people coming here wanting to use, they're trying to attract people to use some of their facilities rather than, so their prices are probably a lot lower than yours.
Also, I think I did suggest 10%, but where the 7% now reflects our belief that inflation is coming down, and that but there needs to be, because of costs and so, a reflection on some increase.
Yeah.
That's hence we're about 7%. I'll second that.
Yeah. In favour? Carried. Okay, item 3, right. Take us through the budgets.
Okay, I wonder, Madam Chair, we do the financial report first.
Okay.
We can do the budget report after that. The financial report this is for the 4 months to the end of October. And just says it currently sits page 31. We know we started the year with a debt of just over $1 million. Rate money and other income has amounted to almost 180,000, which is almost bang on what we had budgeted for. Then our expenditure altogether for the 4 months was 171,000, as opposed to a budget. Admittedly, there's a number of projects within that budget of 264. So, you know, we're about $100,000 lower than what we expected to be about this time of the year. The debt is $100,000 lower than, but there are some key variances, and key variance that has been in place for a little while. It's been the salary and wages, just, you know, constantly a lot lower than what we had budgeted for. Yeah, to the end for the 4 months, it's almost 29,000. And, you know, we have this line item of 21,000 for a regulatory contractor, and specifically funded from the amenities, and not spent any of that either. And then there's a number of projects there where we have allowed for, yeah, essentially a third of the value of that project to be spent by the middle by this time of the year. Yeah.
Could I ask through the chair, just looking at the rate side of it, I thought we had a full budget of 2,800, but it looks like 4,408.
Yeah, and that the rates for the township, I think, are driven by the I think it's the stormwater rates that's let me check.
I'm just wondering why it's at this stage in the just about.
Yeah, we would the rates amount would be the full amount for the year. It would have been I'd need to go back and just check what made up that. I didn't highlight it as a major variance, but I need to go back and check what made up that the rates just and then drill down to see why our budget was so low. I'd imagine it could be due to water usage, but I don't know the specific items there. Other than we got the budget wrong, which is but I can certainly dig down a bit deeper than that. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, there's a number of project lines there that we've spent a very small or no portion of that 4 months worth of to date.
So we've got the electricity, right?
Yeah, I've thought that right. It's remarkably similar to the budget, but it is sort of reflecting that we've only got 1 metre, I think, so the allocation we've got for the hall is the amount that we will spend, and the rest goes to the service centre and the library.
We've got the Christmas parade coming up. There's $1,000 there for that.
Yeah, I think we've actually got a full $3,000 budget for the full year, and essentially 4 months of that is 1,000. So we really do spend that, I think, between us and the business unit, business association.
Do we need to say more the Christmas parade because it is 4 weeks long? The road code has been approved.
Right. Talk to Ross Carter.
That was the.
Yeah, he's now president of the Business Association.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, the track network group at the end of October, there was 37,000 in the account, and so I'm scheduled out on page 35. It does have to be a different number, doesn't it? Difference between the two. There's one item, a couple of items. I've got, some additional costs there for the staff application too, there than I've got on that, on page 31, sorry, on page 35.
Yeah.
So I would say the page 35 is more applicable, 29,200. And I know the grant, the $5,000 grant that we get from the forest, the Heritage Forest Trust has been invoiced, so that will come through. Perhaps the key variance. No, apologies for that. I'll just correct that, and will be corrected the next. Okay, page 32 is the weather contingency fund. So started the year with $30,500 in this account, and just putting $10,000 a year from the amenities rate plus whatever interest is credited to it. So that's sitting on 34,000. And then the roadside construction account, we started the year with a debt of 80,000, and we do have You can see there's 75,000 now specifically for street lighting. That includes the 50,000 that was carried forward from the previous year, and rating 37,000 per annum. So there's more work that needs to be done down on State Highway 7A that would come out of this account and bring it. So that hadn't specifically been forecast or budgeted for, but we're predicting that this account would be about $127,000 in debt at the end of the financial year. If we've got another 35,000 potentially there, that'll be more like 150,000. Okay, the medical centre started the year with a debt of 176,000. So we've got the rate money, which for the first 4 months of the year was 10,500 plus the rental from the medical centre of 3,800, and the expenditure that's gone out to date. So insurance and rates are only incurred at the start of the year. So the one-off hits at the start of the year. So our total expenditure is about what we had budgeted for, and the balance at the end of October, sitting on close to the same amount that we started with. But as we go through the year, majority of the rate money and the majority of the rental will go into offsetting the debt. The doctor's house started the year with a debt of 206,000. And we've got just down to 197,000 at the end of October. And then we've got a couple of development contribution funds. So we've got the township development one, which has been sitting on that $300,000 balance for a wee while, but there are some significant developments on the horizon, and we'll bring that down. We've got the old hall development contribution fund, which had a tiny little amount of interest there, but trying to clear that away. Page 33, we've got the walkway development fund. And again, we're no longer collecting contributions for that, but there's still 11,000 in that. So that will get transferred to, in the past we had transferred funding towards the Track Network Group to do specific project work. I mean, we can just transfer that balance through to there as well, and then that money's sitting there for the network group. So, and then we've got the Ferry Bridge Fund, which almost got 100,000 in it, and the Tourism Fund, which got 35,000. It's increased due to interest, and the bungee jump royalties normally come in about May of the year. We've got the upgrade development, the domain upgrade development contribution fund. So that's got 171,000 in it currently. So that will build up. There'll be more contributions and more interest credited to that, and that's ultimately going to be used on offsetting a portion of the whatever we do with the pavilion down the track. But it is instead of was originally going to be last financial year, but it's been deferred a few years now. Yeah. So that money doesn't go away, but there will be a point in time where we'll have to do some work on upgrading the domain or upgrading the pavilion, utilising those DCs. Yeah. Otherwise, we're in danger of having to pay it back, which is always fun. We also put some money aside from the pavilion, from the contestable fund to the pavilion fund, and done a little bit of work in respect to that, but that's built up to 26,000. We have a balance of the contestable fund, the next one down, and the full reconciliation of that is on page 34. But that's got a balance of 71,000 in it.
Has the decking been done, Jason, do you know? Basement of the outside decking?
Unless I see it through the financials, I don't know.
Okay, right. I'll have a look.
The last amount there is obviously
Because it had been done.
Well, I thought it had.
yeah, I think that may have been incurred in the last financial year.
Yeah.
I've got it, that was balance, sort of cost of about $9,000.
Sounds right.
Yeah, so they hit that pavilion account last year because it was a higher amount than previously. Okay, and the staff house fund, which we've talked about, the one project that we've got assigned to that is just some the playground groundwork and Brock Dawson Reserve. Once that is completed, we'll know how much is available, and then, as I said, of these projects that we within reserves, it's better to use that money than the amenities money. So we may sort of just rob Peter to pay Paul, get rid of that fund, and then it lessens the impact on the amenities rate. And hopefully, the objective is trying to get rid of that debt and the amenities rate a lot quicker than what we thought in the long-term plan. Okay, so
Just to be clear on that, the report on reserve. Is it the 156,000? Is that to go to that?
No, and I think the intention is that you apply it to, needs to be applied to reserves within the board. So there's 27 that were listed in the application to the minister. But as I said, the previous part of that was it was the majority of the funds, I didn't say all the funds, and the majority were to be used Dog Stream, Dawson and Tarndale and Lockhill Drive. If we've done all the projects that we need to do in each of those, the rest can be applied to reserves. Right. We would like the contestable fund, the money there just needs to be applied to reserves in some form, but ultimately, you are the guardians of those monies. So if you want to apply it to reserves, if there's a need and that's a funding source, we just match the two. There isn't, any specific reporting back to the Department of Conservation on the use of the funds, but we can quite clearly prove that the initial funds anyway have been applied to reserves, and it's just what we do with the accrued interest. But again, the intention is to use it on reserves, so there's no issues with the application.
I'm just trying to clarify through the chair that refers to project listing. Some of them have got the system.
Oh no, just on page 36, I provide a full list of the capital projects we've identified as part of the budget for this year. So, and this was just a way of monitoring the total budget, where the funding source. Right. So, like we had the village hub, we've got some work on the hall, we've got some work down in the camp, and various other reserves, and plus work on the medical doctor's house. So we had a total of 285,000 of specific community projects, of which we spent 1,800. So there's a fair amount of that listed, still to be done, and we've just got that 40,000 for the Brock Dawson Reserve Playground there listed as one of those projects. So that's that was the project listing that I was referring to in the financial report.
So I can't see the 40,000.
It's about 3/4 of the way down. Reserves, Brock Dawson Reserve Playground funding source was the staff house fund, and 40,000.
Yeah.
Now, of which we spent 1,300, which will be mainly project management time attached to it.
Yeah. Okay.
The final bit of the financial report, it was page 37. It's just doing a list of all the insurance, the buildings that you are responsible for the insurance on, is the community board, what the values are and what the premiums are. The council approved the Audit and Risk Committee approved the insurance schedule the end of June, and I've only just got the full breakdown from our insurance broker. But the key thing here is that the Memorial Hall, for instance, here we've got reinstatement value of almost $1.5 million. The cost of insuring at the standard insurance premium is $2,700, but the community board has chosen to have full natural disaster cover and it's almost 3 times the amount of the standard premium, and that just reflects the age and the earthquake strength of the hall. So the natural disaster cover, makes up about 3/4 of the premium.
So that's 11,213.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm hoping that should match what I've said there. It does in the financial report. So it's but when we went down this track, about a couple of years after the Canterbury quakes, the natural disaster cover for a lot of our community buildings just went up exponentially. It was and it was particularly around any buildings that were built before 1965 had this huge amount of earthquake premium. Anything built before, I think it was 1925, which included the Queen Mary buildings, had an even higher earthquake cover. So we did an exercise around the communities. This is the savings if we eliminate the earthquake. We just take a risk. We're still covered for fire and things like that. But it was if there was an earthquake, and damage had been caused to a building because of an earthquake, and we didn't have natural disaster cover, there was no funds available, and it worked almost perfectly, even through the Hiranui Kaikoura earthquakes, apart from an aftershock that hit the Scarborough Hall, and then there was a lot of locals that were pretty quick to point the finger at negligent CFO for not having proper cover, but it was a process we went through with the community in order to make a savings on the premiums. But you as a community chose to retain natural disaster cover here because so that's why we've consistently had the premiums of the halls of 11,000.
Can I just ask one further question on that?
Yep.
With these halls, and this one being the case here, have we brought the MBS up to what, like, is it 67% or any of those sort of things? Or is it still 34?
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
The National Building Standard is for our halls, and this being a case in point, have we done earthquake reinforcing or whatever's been necessary to bring it up to a certain standard?
All the work was done in here, brought it up. I can't remember the name, whether it's 60,
something like that, 60 something. So that the school could use it.
Yeah.
But even having it at the 34 or 67% doesn't avoid that is a factor that the insurers have, but a whole lot of likelihood scenarios that they build in as well. So we don't avoid the premiums even if we build up that level, because the premiums are the National Building Standard doesn't prevent damage. So there will always be the risk that the insurers are trying to cover by that. But, if it's up at, 100% of the building standard, that natural disaster premium will come down, but there will always be an element of it there.
Yeah.
The only way to avoid paying the premium is just not having it, and you just take a risk. So we've got the backpackers and the planes camp. Having that cover, but we get rental to cover that. The sports pavilion, we don't have natural disaster cover on. But the doctor's house and the medical centre, we do, so they're reflected there. But the medical centres across the board, we do have full cover on, and largely any rental properties we have full cover.
The Conical Hill lookout isn't insured.
It's insured for demolition. So if
You think?
We certainly wouldn't want to lose that building.
no.
The amount of people that think it's someone's house. It's very many times, we couldn't find a lookout.
I think that should be insured, personally speaking.
Well, let me
Check the price on
the purpose of putting this in front of all the relevant committees is just making sure that you're comfortable with that level of cover. And if you're not, we can make changes. We can make changes any time.
This is the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, I would have done it some years ago, but it was at the insistence of the mayor that I provided to the community committees as well. So which I've always meant to do. So it is coupled with this, we also had a revaluation that all of our buildings for insurance purposes last year that takes effect for this year. So it's showing what the actual values are. You can see like to rebuild the sports pavilion to close to 2.5 million. Okay, so I'll inquire about the Conical Hill lookouts.
Yeah.
I think they couldn't lose it.
The key with that is just making sure that we can assess the value of it. That's always a thing, different to most buildings where you've got 1,000 square metres to build a dwelling. For that, it's pretty specialist piece of
But
infrastructure.
it should be listed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep. Okay, look, leave that to me, and I'll give you an idea of the additional premiums at your next meeting, and we can just get listed if that's the way for us to go.
It's okay.
That's the financial report.
Thank you.
Whether you want to do anything about that.
All in favour? Thanks very much.
Okay, so the next, page 23 is the enrollment, is the budget for the next year, and all I've done here is reflected. There hasn't been a lot of only feels like we got the long-term plan adopted, so the annual plan is the sort of last thing I've been on our mind at the moment. But be that as it may, we need to look at the budget. So all I have done here is shown where we ended up. Better show. So I've got split it into 4 columns. This is the actual for the 23-24 year that we ended in at the end of June. And then the next column is the budget for the current year, which should match the total as we've got in our financial report. And then the pink column there is what we had allowed for in year 2 of the long-term plan. And then the next column is where we'll make the actual annual plan adjustments. So you'll see most of them have remained unchanged, only because we haven't actually done any specific work on the budgets. But it's just showing that if this year's budget goes according to plan, we should be at a, because there's a number of projects in there. We'll end the financial year with a debt of 1.2 million. But yeah, there's a few variances we've already identified. And then if we have an 8% increase in the rates as we allowed for in the long-term plan, that will give us in the amenities account and the other of rates of 620,000. There's another 30-odd thousand dollars of other income, and then at total expenditure we're looking at is 659,000, which closely matches our income. So we've always had a process where last year the budget for this year is the cost budget is higher than our income, so we're going to pay for a component of that through debt, and as we go through the 10 years, the income start to increase over the costs, and that's why we've got that 8% increase in the rates, with the intention by the end of year 10 that we'll have that debt repaid or getting close to it. But every 3 years we get a chance to recalibrate that to make sure that it's still on track.
Do you understand that debt?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's kind of happening.
Yeah.
We're already in debt, which,
the fancy footpaths.
yeah.
What was the increase? Was it from 5 to 8?
Yeah, we did have standard 5, but we determined, the community did as board as an 8%, and that just gave us additional rates every year, and then the compounding effect of that got us to a point where we were going to clear that debt at the end of 10 years. We only really do that every 3 years as we update the long-term plan. So this is purely the year 2 snapshot of the long-term plan, and these are the costs that we had allowed for in the budget. There's a high percentage of the project work in this financial year, so we actually have no specific projects coming out of the amenities account in the next financial year. So yeah, when you're not spending, our operating expenditure is going to be about what our operating income is. So you're getting to a point where you're at least breaking even during the year for the year, and then as the rates go up in the outer years, that's getting a chance to get rid of that debt. The other component is that the interest rates are coming down, which is certainly good for communities that hold debt. So even now the prediction is good $2,000 lower. It's not a lot, but it is. It does make a difference over a longer period.
Can I ask a question through the chair? I'm just trying to understand with the actuals that we've got, and I'm looking particularly at wage allocation, for example. That was as of the 40,505 was as of the 31st of March, was it?
The 40 was as of the 30th of June this year, so it's for the full year. Yeah, and in our budget we did, but this year we did predict that our wages, the wage costs that we're allocating to the amenities was going to be 98,000, and even now we're a long way away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just there's a very substantial increase.
I suppose we're looking at the actual to an increase for this year. I suppose part of what we do need to do is and I mentioned there that staff still need to go back through the budgets, make sure that what they had determined as part of the activity-based budgeting, the assumptions around that are still valid, and that one of them is actually looking at our staff, the allocation of our wages, because I know we're allocating a lot less of a gardener's time to these amenities accounts than we had predicted.
Right.
But maybe they're applying it to district reserves I know the swings and roundabouts in the Amberley board or the South board, the allocation of gardeners is a lot higher than what we predicted. So whether there is some seasonality to that or whether we've just got our assumptions wrong in that respect.
Yes, I think that sort of stands out in my mind. It'd be interesting to know as to how.
Yeah, so that is part of the process that we will go through. We analyse, each year, go through the entire staff and then try and determine how much time that they spend in each particular area, and then we allocate, do a wage allocation on that basis. But as we go, as they do work day to day, it's based on, we allocate their time based on allocate the cost based on how much time they actually do spend in it. So if their timesheet says something different to Hanmer Springs amenities, you don't get charged for it in your amenities account.
Okay.
Yeah, and I suppose, it does stick out as a significant increase from what we have incurred in the past, but and all this is reflecting what we allowed for in the budget, but we will go back.
So we're not paying the wages for Amberley or anything like that?
No, you're not. Well, obviously not, because we've underspent by 30,000 in the first 4 months. But it is, the intention is, like every budget, you estimate how much time you're going to spend in it, but if you allocate, if your actual time is a lot less, the cost to that community can be a lot less. But you can see most of the operating expenses here are largely within there's a wee bit of movement for inflation, but there are some items there where we're spending a lot less than what we had predicted in this year. Like halfway down the hall, we had 14,800 in repairs and maintenance specifically for this year. And as we move into the next financial year, that had dropped to only $3,000. And that was specific one-off works that need to be done to the hall for this financial year that we, in our activity-based budgeting, we didn't need to do in the next year. And similarly, in contractors and reserves,
Just over here.
there's about a $10,000 drop in that cost. Okay, and then obviously we've got about $150,000 worth of projects there, and we don't have any project for this current financial year, and don't have any projects for year 2 at all. But and none, certainly none planned in the long-term plan. There are projects that do crop up, and they have to be funded from the amenities. That will just result in that debt being higher.
Through the chair, that 75,000 is the level of finance.
That's correct. And so page 2 is the roadside construction. So we know we're starting this financial year with a debt of just on 80,000, rate money of 37, an interest cost of 4.5, and the updated street lighting cost for this year of 75,000, which means at the end of this year we're going to be in this account by 122, and talked about that before. We need to spend 35,000 on the State Highway A. That would add to that debt. But in year 2, the only project that we specifically had was 25,000 for street lighting, which is the standard amount. But I think in year 3 we had some other works relating to Woodbank Road. I recall.
Yes, there was a footpath, wasn't there?
Yep.
200,000.
That's right. So we delayed that for year 3. It can come into year 2 if you wish, but we'll bring that money forward and you'll have an additional interest cost attached to that because the debt would increase significantly. Page 26, the medical buildings altogether. And again, so we've got the medical building itself, where the debt is sitting, and we're expecting it to, all else being equal, with $10,000 worth of projects in this financial year. The rental will remain largely the same or just move due to inflation, and the operating expenditure move due to inflation. That at the end of this year, we'll have a debt of 175,000 because we're spending some additional costs on capital. At the end of next year, would be at a debt of 162,000.
So that actual there of 77,317 is.
Yep. That's the amount of rates that we're predicting to bring in this year.
Right.
It's about what we've, and we haven't allowed for any increase in the medical centre rate over the journey. Yep. And similarly with the doctor's house, we actually strike a rate of about 52,000, and we get the rental money, and then the standard outgoings being rates, insurance, and some repairs and maintenance. And you can see that, and we've got a couple of capital projects in this year and an oven replacement due in year 2. But we're quite aggressive in getting rid of the debt on this. So at the end of this financial year, we're expecting to be down at around 150,000 at the end of next financial year. The majority of that rate money is going into clearing debt. So it'll be down to, on this prediction, down to about 110,000.
Yeah.
And this keeps going over the next few years. That debt will be repaid year 5 of the long-term plan. Okay, page 27 are the various development contribution funds that we hold. The only live ones that we've got now are the Town Centre DC Fund and the Domain DC Fund, and just reflecting the numbers there. Those numbers fell out of the long-term plan. It's quite high level of development contributions, but there are some significant developments on the horizon. So I'm not panicking about it quite yet, whether those numbers are too high.
I was wondering how they might arrive at them.
Yeah, they were based on our population projections that were done as part of the long-term plan, converting that back into the number of new sections created, and it did the significant growth in the last 10 years has been the southern part of the district, but yeah, there are developments in Hanmer Springs that are
Two major ones.
yeah. But we monitor these every month to see how we're going. But at this stage, before this comes to fruition, that debt for the Town Centre DC Fund will be down to under 150,000, and you'll have 165,000 in the Domain Development Contribution Fund, which will obviously be applied to the major project that we undertake in a couple of years' time. And then as you're squaring away, we did have the Walkway Development Contribution Fund and the Medical Centre Development Contribution Fund, both of those amounts getting transferred into either the Trent Network Group, being the first one, or to offset the debt for the Medical Centre for the last one. And then we've, page 28 and 29 are the various funds, special funds that we hold. So we've got the Ferry Bridge Preservation Fund, which is money we're receiving from the bungee jump royalties plus insurance, interest. That's predicted to be up around 116,000 by the end of June 26. We've got the Tourism Fund. Now, there is a project in this current financial year to use about $30,000 of that tourism fund. So that will diminish that fund, but it will build up with the portion of the bungee jump royalties and interest.
Yeah, that's the village entrance.
That's correct, yeah. So that's typically where that's going to be. The Track Network Group Fund there, this current year we're applying $67,500 of the amenities rate into this account, and it's just on the basis that we continue providing that level of support. Now the balance of the closing balance is really neither here nor there. It's just it was just putting in what we allowed for in the budget. Yeah. And what we allowed for in the budget was on the basis that the fund was depleted at the end of each financial year, but in reality, the money is carried forward into the next financial year and applied to projects in future financial years.
Yeah, we made a substantial recommendation there, more or less doubling it.
That's correct. Yeah.
We also saw the benefit of the payback.
And then we've got the weather contingency fund, similarly here, just putting that money aside. And so the budget's been predicated on, we put $10,000 of amenities rate into this fund, and we spend about $10,000 a year. But in reality, it works. We have years where we spend nothing, and then if we have a major weather bomb, that's when that fund will come to fruition. And then we've got the Pavilion Fund. That was the money that was set aside, and yeah, again, it was just the only movement in there is just some interest, and again, that will assist in offsetting some of the costs to the domain or to the pavilion when it's done. Yeah. And finally, on page 29 is the Staff House Fund. No, that's, yeah, we've talked about this plenty of times already. At the end of this financial year, if we do the $40,000 on Brock Dawson reserve, there'll be 122,000, but we need to just assess what projects still need to be done and just allocate that fund against that with the idea of trying to get rid of that fund not as quickly as possible with efficient spend. But
so that's what might go to the up the hill.
Yeah. And then the contestable fund, again, what we were doing is largely building up that contestable fund to be another funding source towards the domain upgrade when we do it. But saying that, any projects that meet the criteria that you want to apply that to, that's a decision.
Just reserves, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
I think we were looking, is this where the fund where that forgotten the term, playground equipment for disabilities was going to come through?
Sensory playground.
Yeah, inclusive playground equipment. Well, that was going to come from this fund.
Yeah, I'll check the minutes to make that correctly.
It was last week.
Yeah, a meeting before. Yeah, there was project. Yeah, because I was.
Yeah. Like it's, what's the budget for that?
About 1,300.
Yeah. Okay, so we've already. Oh no, sorry, no, that was last financial year. I'll need to update the reconciliation to to apply that, so. The purpose of this, the budget, Madam Chair, is just, I suppose, re-familiarising the community board with what we had said in the budget, and but there's going to be work done background. There'll be another budget report presented in February, and that will tie in with the timeframe that we need for all the community committees, their individual budgets then build up to the full council budget as part of that. And so February is a better time to do that work. If there's any projects or any items there that don't look right, and we've identified a few already, or any further projects that haven't been identified that you want to allow for now, we can build that into the budget in February and then confirm that it's built into the annual plan. The annual plan is normally subject to submission. So we'll go out to the community and ask them, are you happy with this level of rate increase or this level of levels of service for specific areas? And then go through the submission hearing, and then the council will make the final decision towards the end of June. So there's a long run up to it from here, but there is a number of the first key port of call is in February when we look at the budgets again with a bit more detail and a bit more input from staff updating some of those components, and then we'll go through it. And then there's plenty of in the time frame where we need to make adjustments.
I just feel that there seems to be only a few months ago that we might be doing the long-term plan.
I know.
And really, there's not much change.
No, well, that is the thing. The thing that has changed is that we've finished the financial year, so we know what the opening balance is for this year.
That's right.
But the thing is that but another 8 months of this financial year before we know what we actually have spent for the year, particularly around wages and the likes.
Do we formally receive this information?
It's just a discussion item. We don't need to form it.
Well, yeah, no,
We've been informed.
I suppose I've discussed it.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's good. It's great to have a good overview. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Jason. Great. Every year I understand a little bit better. Okay, so we'll move on then to we have no correspondence, so we'll move on to the action sheet.
Page.
Which is page 38, which I have open a moment ago. Rightio. So the hub signage project, I know we talked this morning at the track network group that we want to have a look at the siting of that, but that's so the funding for that comes out of the amenity account, is that correct? Or is it an LTP project, Jason, that we have to?
The account, I think.
So it's for next year.
Okay.
$1,000 for next year.
Yeah.
Just over 6,500.
Is that
This is the signage project in the village green for all the tracks.
right? Okay.
For which we have a plan. Mark Ingles was driving it. I think Alice is going to take it over. So we have design, we have engineers report, siting probably needs discussing, because we don't really want it smack dab in the middle because other users use the green.
But there has been quite a increase based on costings,
Yes, that's right.
because the design is still much the same.
The design is pretty much the same, but engineering, et cetera, et cetera. So it was put back another year, you could get that, but I'm just, do we, in the long, so,
Yeah, I don't see it as part of the,
it says on page 36, Village Hub amenities account, funding source. Year one budget, 60,000,
that-
on page 36.
that's correct, yeah.
That's right.
So we just assume that
Oh, that,
we will start that project next financial year.
yeah, well, it's available now, yeah. Sorry, I didn't, yeah, I didn't realise that the Village Hub and that 30,000 was part of that,
Right,
that project. So yeah, no, that's fine. I was, where's this 30,000? So, that budget is available now. So, and that's the funding source.
right. So we just, before we do that, I'm just going back to our discussions this morning at Trek Network Group. It's great now that the clubs are more hands-on with the budget. They've got rather than having a coordinator, like everyone's getting a much better idea of what's what. And also looking at ways that we can make that Village Hub signage sustainable into the long term. So we're not going to have to update it in 3 years' time. So, so just to I'll do an update on the Trek Network Group later, but that just in terms of that Village Hub, we're all pretty determined that, yeah, we get onto it, but before we do it, it's going to be made so that it lasts.
Yeah, it's actually the signage for all our tracks, isn't it?
All of our tracks and forest closures due to fire or wind damage and stuff like that. So it's a central information hub for that part of our community. Anyway, okay, so that's where that's up to. So item 2, so that's in the budget for the solar lighting.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of an update there, Madam Chair. So we went to, so our contractor that we use for streetlights has some understanding of what's going on around the place in terms of power requirements. So after the decision last time, they could go back to main power and say, can you just have a relook at what's going on at Rippingdale? And they did. So we're just waiting on main power to come back and confirm whether or not there is power already in situ at the top of Rippingdale. So, and if there is, then we can get 2 powered lights put in there for the price of 1 solar power. So that's why I'm just trying to pull the brakes on it.
Right.
Yep.
Just to try and get some better outcome.
Yeah.
But we're also, in the meantime, we've also got our contractor looking at a solar design as to where they're going to go. So we've got the 2-pronged approach, but both underway.
Yeah.
Because there are power poles right next to that bend there.
Yeah, but it's whether or not there's enough capacity in the network to put more power, more streetlights in. Otherwise, we might need a whole new layout, and then we'll have a better run of that.
Great. Thank you. Item 3, street lighting for Rippingdale Road. That's, I think we pretty much covered that, haven't we? Page 39. Item number 4, so we looked at that this morning, this afternoon, lunchtime.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yep.
So I'm going to wait to hear back on that one and wait to hear how much money's left over from the Woodbank Road footpath fund, so that we might be able to use that. Right, page number 40, Conical Hill Road trees. Any update on that?
You wanted to see well, the quote is essentially just, it says formative prune and elevate where needed, $1,587 including GST. And we suggest putting that same value, obviously inflation related, into future budgets. So they'll come along and they'll just continue to maintain those trees.
Great. Yep, sounds good. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, number 6, Tom Ellis.
Yeah, I think there we said that it would be nice to start accumulating funds. I don't know whether we could get a percentage for the 150 years celebration and start slipping some money in there and something.
Oh, they can easily do so. You know, if you wanted to allocate great money into it, I don't know how much, so when is the,
We could ask for donations towards it.
We've just got to wait to 2033.
yeah.
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 It's going to make you alive. Yeah.
Do.
Yep, yeah, that's great.
Go, okay, so we're gonna have a ball and we're gonna have
Yep.
rockets and we're gonna have
Street signs and flags.
Legs, yep,
speakers and all that stuff and work out kind of how many 100,000 you need and then
Yep.
we start putting some money aside.
Alice is driving this, but she's not here today, so.
Okay.
if you don't use it, it just goes back into
Yeah.
existing.
And that, specifically put money aside, but it is, yeah, correct. It's like having a mortgage and a term deposit at the same time.
Yeah.
And,
Stacey will probably be the one that's around to try.
Dallas. No, what's for sure?
So yeah, look forward to hearing, you know,
Yep.
as it goes on, what you want to do and we take it from there. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, item number 7, we've kind of talked about this, haven't we? Chris, you've got a project going on up there.
This is at Michelle's.
Northern side of Conical Hill Lookout.
Oh, the northern side, you leave that with me. Yep,
Yeah,
that's what we talked about.
that's what we talked about.
That's what we talked about.
So Chris is, do you want to give the board a
I'll give
brief?
it. There's several pieces of the northern side of the lookout. There is the lookout and directly this side where the track goes up, that's one piece. If you go up to the seat, if you haven't been up recently,
Eagle's
it's
Nest.
the top of the Eagle's Nest, Rainier's taken all the trees out.
Yeah.
So now we've got a beautiful view. I approached Rainier and they got back to me. They will give us or put it in, they have a sort of conservation project system too. So if you look at it, the council lines, the seats here, the lookouts here, the council lines are basically straight lines. So they've planted up like this, around like this. So what they've done is I approached them and said, look, how about just not planting some of that so we can put that into Carnuka for the rough gecko. So they've come back and said that they will do this for us, but we'll have to pay for the Carnuka, but they'll put it in. It gives us an added advantage here is when those trees grew before you couldn't see Mount Isabel. With what we've got now, they'll never block out Mount Isabel. So it's a double-edged sword here. The community's come, but it's positive about this too. Our view will be permanent rather than be a big row of trees. But they came back and said, look, it's a bit too small. They've had a staff change in there as they normally do. And I've rung this guy a couple of times and I'll get them back to them next week. And I want them to GPS again if they're going to do that. So we'll know exactly where it's going to be. But we will be getting, it'll always be theirs, but it'll be in some sort of covenant thing that they have. But it helps us as a community. Helps the rough gecko and it helps our view.
This is look at Mount Isabel.
Yep, we should never lose that view again. Because prior to those trees coming down, you consider that seat and not see Isabel. The trees blocked it out.
And it kind of provides that ring right around,
The white ring around, it'll,
which is
yep.
great. Thank you, Chris. Okie dokie. Okay, so item number 8, Heritage Forest. I think that's ongoing with Pauline. Yeah, I'm going to go and see Pauline about that update, so I'll talk to her about that then. So Mary. Gravel extraction. Last email I had from Ekin said that they've sorted it. They've found a middle ground with Don for taking the excess gravel out of the Chatterton River above the water pipeline
Right.
in the dock area. to prevent possible flooding of all our new subdivisions down Meadowburn area. So you can take that off.
Okay.
10, Conoco Hill planting, oh, that was Sharon Michelle's.
It's done.
That's done?
Yeah.
Right, we now take number 10 off. Item 11, costs involved in changing the status,
Ash isn't here.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So I'm just listening to
So
that
we've
pro-
got to, if we want to do that, well, first of all, the price to convert that.
Yeah.
Is likely to be anywhere north of 10, below 20, and we wouldn't know until we really get into it, because it's all about where it's originated from, and then it's about all the legal fees and then surveying and then changing all the legals. So in your mind, probably have up to about 20,000. But I would, in my looking at the roading network and my capacity of my role today, I would probably counsel against it.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at future long-term development of Hanmer Springs, that's all road reserve, and that's probably the prime area where you'd be looking to some kind of roundabout or some kind of control the ebb and flow of traffic.
Yeah.
Because today it's road reserve, but so if you take a long-term view of that area, you might want to keep developing it with your hub and all of those other things, but keep in mind that it is still road reserve and we have the freedom to do things with it.
Yeah.
If it becomes reserve and we ever wanted to convert it back, then you end up paying double.
Yeah.
So we can still develop the village hub.
With the village hub on there.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
we're
do
going to
that.
do.
Start saying,
Yeah.
still use it for the Christmas party.
We just
Leave it the way it is.
We
I
just
think
can't
that's a good idea.
And to have a fund for it to do anything to it. We have to bring the funds from something else. For like the village hub project, for example.
Well, I suppose if it ever had to be used, we could move those facilities to the other side.
So when we have funds available, we can't allocate them, they
To
should go to
that.
reserve, that they can never be allocated to that.
Great.
Yeah. So everything we have semi-portable.
Oh, no, house is there and stuff.
Yeah, but no,
It'll be very long term.
Yeah, it will be long run.
Roundabout,
Yeah.
there, hopefully.
It'll be about that 150-year time. Yours again, 2023.
Okay, item 12, I think we discussed that earlier. So, for the staff house fund.
Yeah.
If there's anything left after current project, then goes back up to the top of Conoco Hill. Okay, great. So annual review items. Number 1. Yeah, due next year. Yeah, we've got that updated. Number 2, council buildings. I think that's
Work in
a
progress.
work in progress. It's not done. Item 3, snow plan,
25 next year.
getting less and less valid. Fitness equipment. Yeah, leave it on the action sheet till the equipment's gone. Conoco Hill ramp, we just discussed that.
I spoke about that every year, that's it, but that's deteriorating
The bottom.
at the bottom,
The bottom of
with the frost heave and all that.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the one where the, yeah, big for the rocks. Yeah, got you. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Okay, long-term plan. Item number 1. So, yeah, seems to be ticking over and lessening those debts. We've always got the option to up the rent if we need to. Pavilion upgrade. Yeah, we're sitting on that one. Come on in.
Because there was a nunnery.
Gallery.
Oh, I thought it said-
Oh, the gallery, right, I see. So go to the gallery out there.
I'm in the wrong place.
When we talk about pavilion upgrade, where are we now?
Where are we with that? I think that we're doing what we need to do to keep that old pavilion alive until such time as we determine whether there's going to be a new one either on site or in Queen Mary somewhere.
So it's repair and maintenance basically. Okay.
Really.
For anybody who uses the gym in the winter, they've got a snorkel.
That will go into the solid block
It is.
in June, in April.
Yeah.
So it's right.
Right. Item number 3, ongoing.
Can I ask a question there,
Yeah.
Madam Chair? There's an update there on the, that says in progress with council officers who will investigate the best way forward to secure the land. Now, you've got no money set aside in the budget to do any work in that. So is that a true reflection of what you want us to do? Or do we not do anything here until much closer to the time when there may be an appetite to do something closer to the time?
It just seems, well, my opinion is it just seems to get further and further away.
Yeah, we're not getting any closer to it, are we?
Yeah, no, we're not getting any closer to it. I'm not quite sure. I mean, this has been on this agenda for quite a long time now, and way beyond 2021. It's been up, brought up for 20 years or so, isn't it, Michael?
Yes.
So we definitely do not have money to secure the land.
No.
So 2033, you know, maybe we could tailor something that's within our budget and aim towards them.
But the present owner is quite willing to accommodate us, I believe. Now, couldn't we do a peppercorn lease or an easement on the land that would cost us next to nothing, but would actually secure that corner of the land? And then we could then perhaps clear the trees and make it ready.
Isn't it Transit New Zealand? Did you say Transpower?
No, I thought it was across the road. Yeah. Is it there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lockhill.
No, so do I, yeah.
So I don't specifically know where it is. What I do
So
know is
it's in the apex of the corner as you turn off to Hanmer.
but it's going to cost us money to investigate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even to secure an easement, it's going to cost money. But every time an officer starts thinking about something, it's going to cost you money.
Yeah.
So is it something that you want us to start thinking about and provide you with guidance on how we can, what options we've got to secure the land, whether that be a lease, whether that be an easement, or but that will be, it will involve engaging with the property owners.
Yes, I suppose we need to confirm with the property owners before we do anything that they want this to go ahead.
They're open to it.
Are they open?
They're open to it. I don't have the official conversations because I'm not on this,
No.
my project, but I know they're open to it. But I think realistically, in terms of the project, and it just keeps getting escalating in price, that 2033 for the 150 years might be a really realistic goal. And Lockhill, very open to it, but the trees have got to come down.
I think we ought to start, personally speaking, I think we ought to start those negotiations to secure that land, if nothing else.
Right.
Well, we've got a willing landowner, because
Yeah.
it could always change hands.
And community board.
So we've got a willing landowner who is prepared to enter into negotiations with us. I think we ought to do that, start now.
I think the preference would be an easement rather than negotiating to make purchase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a long-standing easement.
How much land do we actually need there? You know, when you come around the corner here up, you hang a right, you've got the pine trees on the left. Is it just down in that open area there where we're thinking of? As you're heading along, opposite where the red cars are.
I suppose you need to look very closely at what is road reserve. And because
I'm not clear in my mind as to what land we're
No,
clearly talking about
Yeah.
in relationship to everything else, like road reserve and so on.
well, do we clarify that? And maybe we all go down and have a little look.
Yeah.
Make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we know what we're looking at. We know the exact spot where we want to put it. We know who owns the land, how long it will take.
That's right.
And also, Dan, with your roading hat on, ultimately that junction will need to be changed.
Yeah.
It's not a safe junction.
Well, that's not our call.
No, but you can look at it with your roading eyes on it and say, what would be the most likely scenario to improve that junction? Because certainly if you're coming from Springs Junction, and you've got to turn left into Hanmer, it's wholly unsuitable.
Okay,
And you could, you know, you just said about this, the village green here, that ultimately there will be some sort of traffic measures there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there's got to be something done with that corner. And you could use your educated eye and practical eye and say, well, the most likely thing that they'll do is this, which actually may bugger up plans for a big sign.
Well, I know that they had a long-term vision to get rid of the access. You go along and down a new bridge to come across at the bottom, straight across and up and over. That was some time ago. That's what they looked at. I mean,
You
that's,
need to go to the bridge and around the mountain.
yeah, so the bridge would be gone. You keep it bungee, just used for bungee jump. So I don't know, you might be right. We might spend 20,000 on this in 10 years' time to change it.
well, I could certainly write to them and ask them what their long-term, what's the long-term solution for the ferry bridge?
Yeah.
Let's see what they say. Because I'm guessing it's the ferry bridge that will determine what they do with that road.
Yeah.
I think that's a good starting point, actually, because otherwise we could be investing a lot of people, a lot of funds and time into something that's right.
Springs 10Ks that way.
Turn off down there.
The highway expertise have got a different idea altogether. And we waste our time and money on it. If it's to do away with the bridge and have another bridge that comes across.
Up there, that.
That's what I heard too.
Yep.
I can ask that question.
Well, that'd be good. That's a really good start.
It is a good start.
And time scale, yeah.
That's right.
Put that road of national significance and get it done in the next 5 years.
Yeah, time on it, person.
Yeah.
Shay Road.
Okay. Item 4, so we've kind of talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the funds are there to do it. We've got to think seriously about how we're going to do it to make it work long term. And we're not going to change the status of that bit of land.
Yep.
Item 5. It's actually not looking too bad down there at the moment.
Yeah, in the summer, it looked really nice.
I mean, we've got through winter now.
Yep.
So, but you know, in the you know, it would be nice to have in the long term when tourism infrastructure fund opens again or something that we can get that tidied up. Would be great. Okay, so entrance to the village, isn't that what we were looking at?
Just today.
Yeah, that can come off. Item 6 can come off.
I'm thinking, right.
Item 7. Does that still need to be in there and that it's being globalised? Yeah, item 7 can come off. Item 8 can just stay there. So want to have. Item 9, the track network group amenity rate increase. Well, that happened.
Yeah, that doesn't need to be there.
So that doesn't need to be there either. Item 10, so Dan, does that mean that as the playground equipment is replaced, then we look at more accessible equipment out of the contestable fund?
But I thought that Chisholm was going to be done
So do
this year. Chisholm playground.
We didn't.
It's going to have the addition of sensory.
Yeah.
In there.
So we had a little plan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think you approved something a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Judge, you've probably got that in action.
Right. I'll just double check with Josie.
Yeah.
Can't you agree?
Sounds like an upgrade to you.
With a big question mark.
We're getting there. We can,
But Jason put forward to us, it's actually going to.
According to those numbers, yeah,
just put your name to it.
Mary Avenue. It's another one of those nice to have, isn't it?
Finance, the cost per metre of asphalt versus concrete that we
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, there isn't too much different. I mean, all the work's in the prep. Sorry, all the money's in the prep work really, and it depends, certainly asphalt versus concrete, depends on the oil price at any given time. And so I'm being overly concerned about the difference in prices, but probably it's easier to get concrete done because you can just mix it on site. Whereas when it's asphalt, you've got to wait for the hot mix truck to come up. So it just depends on where you want to go. And I think some of these probably come back to that point I was making earlier about the social engineering side of it. People are clearly, taking different paths to where the paths are today. And it's whether you want to keep building pathways through the reserve, because somebody will then walk in a different direction.
Yep.
Or you want to try and channel them somehow into going the way that you want to go.
Last thing we want is to have so many bars in there as a compromise on the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's on.
And I would hate to see fencing down there.
Yeah.
It's a lovely open area under the trees, and I personally just think it's human nature, and yeah, you can strategically put some seats and we don't have the money for that at the moment, do we? We have supported it, that's for sure.
I wonder, I mean, just a suggestion, maybe Chris will probably have a better idea than I will, but maybe some kind of harder wearing grass, because through that area there, we could reseed it, barrier it off while it's taken, and then just see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see whether that changes behaviour, and whether or not it's a harder wearing grass or something like that.
You see that all over the show. Different councils around the world, they'll just block it off, then reseed it, and you just walk around it. And I suspect you're right, people will walk around it. If you took the barrier down, they'll still walk around it. But we're so used to it.
It's almost like conditioning.
Yeah, but we just need to
But
retrain.
then probably start somewhere else. Then you go through the same cycle again, but it becomes just part of your routine maintenance rather than, I don't,
I
it's just.
suspect that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I would support that.
It'll never look perfect because of the trees are in there.
No,
So we just enhance it a little bit better. Here, we're good to go.
are we all happy about that?
I think so. I don't want to see a pile of concrete and ceiling going
Well, we
down.
can't afford to do that. So let's look at the grass up.
Well, and that's what I think. I mean, it's not going to cost us a great deal. Just give it a go and see.
It's good.
And see if that works.
Yeah. I mean,
Cut standards, a little bit of string gun. I mean, I'm not just saying reseed it, don't walk.
Lend you a couple of electric fence patches.
Yeah.
just. Good idea.
Okay,
Sure.
so that's item 12 done.
Through the chair, just an update on that Chisholm Reserve. The latest I had was on the 8th of November and it said they were still waiting for the equipment to arrive.
It's that close.
Right. Okay.
Christmas will be like.
Right, right, so I'll give you an update on our training meeting we had this morning. Come a long way. And I find that the different members of the club are a lot more engaged and in tune with each other now. There has been a little bit of a fisticuffs and elbows out over the years, and I've been there since the beginning, and Michael was leading it at the beginning, and it was pretty nasty there for a while. But we've pretty much, with that last PO request I sent through, that's apart from signage, that's this year's project's done and dusted. And we're looking far more into multi-use trails, whereas before it was like, this is mine and you can't use it. Much more open-mindedness towards multi-use trails and looking at how we can build trails that everybody can use and suits everybody's purpose.
We're talking about walking walking, cycling and horseback.
Yeah. I mean, not all trails are suitable for that, you know, expert downhill mountain bikes, not a good idea to ride a horse on those. But we're looking at ways, for example, to get bikes off the Clarence Valley Road because traffic is moving. There's a lot more traffic on that road. And so, you know, horse riders got main power funding, transport power funding to put in a pack train 12 years ago. And, you know, we're now looking at working together with outside funding to widen it so that everybody can use it. A lot more like, so the Mountain Bike Club looking more into raising funding elsewhere for, you know, because they want more tracks, and we've made it very clear the more tracks you have, the more maintenance. So you get less and less capex and more maintenance taken out of that, out of our funding.
We have increased that funding.
We did increase the funding, but, you know, some.
Could I just ask, funding that we've increased is really for the maintenance of those tracks. If they want to create new tracks, then they may need to find funding.
We've kind of made that rule now. So, you know, they've got a new track that they want to put in, so they're getting private funding for that. Yeah. So we've come to the end of this 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. So next year, we'll look at another strategic plan for the group. The strategic plan at the moment basically is about providing, you know, safe trails within the horizon of the Hanmer Basin. There are some who want to extend that now out to St. James, which, you know, see how that goes. It's a bit tricky because that's still in the Huronui, yes, but it's public conservation land, so it might be a little bit complicated. So we talked about the hub and the situation, the actual building itself, not in the centre of the village green, so it stays viable for other people to use the green. We're pretty much new where the budget was after the projects that we've done.
Just on that one, have we got a contractor that could build the hub?
Yes. Yeah. Ferry doors, though not really officially part of our tracks, it is in our area. That a lot of comment that they're looking a wee bit shabby now. So the men's shed are apparently going to take up that mantle and look after the ferry doors.
Okay.
They're hugely popular.
Yes.
Hugely popular.
Again, maintenance.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the seats that we okayed in the meeting before last, Jonathan, Gardner and Neil onto those. We really, Andrew Matthew came today. What a great guy, and he's done a fabulous job of pulling together the draft for that walking and riding strategy. And it's not only like just an overarching document, but it's quite inspirational. And, you know, I think he's going to be, you know, whereas we're not asking him to, you know, do the digging, he's going to be a good facilitator for us and for Huronui Trails Trust. So he's a new council officer, good guy, and being really careful to widely consult with all the groups. I think he was spending a lot of time with Mountain Bike Club today.
He was the one that presented to us.
Yes, that's right.
And he's got 2 more public consultations here as well.
Yeah, he has. And he was going to be here all day today, he said. So, yeah, so that's pretty much everything, I think, from the Track Network group today.
And you're leading that?
Yes, for my sins. Yeah. Signage is the main thing, you know. Instead of building new tracks, we've got to make sure that people can find the trails that we have.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it. So I think that that's pretty much everything that we have today.
Extra button.
Right? Oh, the extra supplementary, oh gosh, and I should have remembered about this. So this, right, so item 1. It's not my project, but, so I don't, so have you got a copy of that, Michael? I think we've got some over here. Pass those around.
That's right.
Let's do that, don't I? Get something. Okay, so, on page 2 of that,
So you can,
there was an international pass wide and slow campaign. Not only for horses, actually for cyclists and walkers. And the North Canterbury Equestrian Advocacy Group it was on a specific weekend a couple of months ago. And a lot of districts, you know, lots of different road users were represented, but it was largely about, here it was largely about horses. So it's just basically trying to educate drivers to pass wide and slow. And so we had a ride here on a weekend, one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday, just to raise awareness. And, the locals are great. It's the visitors and particularly camper vans that are problematic. And I've been chucked off a horse a couple of times when it's not the noise of the camper van, it's the suck of the wind as they go past. It's quite scary for a horse. So anyway, so there was a global campaign, international campaign for everybody who wanted to. There was quite a big New Zealand campaign on that weekend, and Hanmer was represented. And so following on from that, some members of our group have asked if they can put up these signs, which are approximately, I think they're about 3 meters wide. They've got permission from 2 landowners. One is in the intersection main road, Argelins Road, Woodbank Road, so on the private land, and the other one is down on Mannion's farm. So they're just seeking endorsement from the community board side. Well, it's not my project, but because I belong to that group, I've told you about it and I won't partake in the discussion.
is it on the State Highway 7A coming in that you're making a difference to?
Mannion's farm, opposite the end of Chatterton Road.
Will we not need to have a certain setback
Yep.
on the private land from the State Highway? It seems to
Yep.
remember it's about 30 or 40 metres. Quite some distance. You check on that, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't have it right.
Yeah. As I said, it's not my project, but obviously whatever is the law is the law.
Yeah.
I guess they just want to pass it through the community board.
Well, I look at it, if you drive around here enough, you'll come across a horse riding on the road. It's not like other places in town, you've got to give them a go. And there are people out there that will never seen a horse on a road and wouldn't have a clue what to do. So I think any signage could help save someone's life.
You want us to
Just to,
make a formal endorsement or?
I think so. I think that's what this
It's not asking us for any,
No, they're on one
they
side.
just support really.
support. That's what they're looking for.
I'm agreeable to the support, providing that it's compliant with.
Yes, definitely.
Road uses.
Yep, road users, owners of the land.
I'm happy to close that this community board fully supports the Hanmer Springs Horse Riders campaign.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Everybody happy?
There you go. All those in favour?
Everybody happy?
Well, then we can do it.
I can't do it.
Can't vote.
Oh, right.
Very interesting.
Okay, so councillor report. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I think that's us.
Sorry?
I think that's us then. Yeah. Come for a cup of tea.
So this guy Greg is going to come in. He's already presented to the council about removing wilding pine trees. And he's got an agreement with Ryanair and Dock to start an experimental experiment on Jolly Road, where he's going to take the wilding pines down. And
On Jolly's Pass Road.
somewhere in there.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and when you see the plans that he's got, it will just blow your mind. So if they can start here in the new year. They ought to be in the know sooner rather than later.
Fabulous.
Has he presented to us? Sorry, has he presented to us before another thing?
No, he did the council last week.
But no, I mean years ago. For some. Meetings and discussed that poison when we plant
This is not poison.
No, that was years ago though.
Yeah.
I just wonder.
So
Involved in that.
is he a private contractor that's?
Yes, yeah, he's got a way of doing it.
Waiting outside.
And he can make money out of it as well.
So Tom, is he waiting outside?
I think he might be there.
Yeah,
We want to get that cup of tea.
Anybody else?
yes, probably. Or does he want to talk to us first?
You can have a cup of tea while we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this together.